This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada, because going big never goes out of style. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Here we go. Hey, Bashi.
Hey, Sufi.
We've got a horse girl as a guest today.
Yeah.
Zosia Mamet, fantastic guest. But I want to ask, do you think the way she talks about being a horse girl will be music to Mackenzie's ears?
I think it's entirely familiar. It's a song that Mackenzie has heard in
There's
her
a
head.
little ownership, though, that it's a lot to be married to a horse girl.
Yeah, I think that's recognized. I think, yeah.
Right.
But, you know, I'm pretty laid back.
You're a laid-back dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to put up with me as an older brother for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think that made you like a good vibe to be around? Because like no matter how sort of not saying she is, but like if Mackenzie was sloppy, you'd be like, oh, this is nothing.
Are you trying to take credit for how laid back I am?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'm asking. I don't know. I've never really thought about it. Like, for example, if like Alexi, not that she ever did, like if she was like, if she got mad about something and like ran to our bedroom and slammed the door, that would be like water off my back, because like you did that the entirety of our childhood.
That was a big move of mine.
Big old slammer.
Yeah. I don't know, perhaps. But I also like, Mackenzie has to go out of town a lot for horse shows, and that's like a 4-day thing. And I've always known that was part of the program. But I also I go out of town alone. Like right now, I'm skiing. Yeah. And ain't nobody here but me.
I feel like if she does ever decide to just bolt, she's got a good 4-day head start. You know what I mean? Because she's built in that there's just these horse shows, and you never check. You're never Googling, is there a horse show this weekend? So she could basically load up that whole trailer with like all her stuff. You probably wouldn't even pay attention. And then it would be like day 5 before you'd be like, hey, where'd my wife go?
Where are the dogs?
Oh, do you think she'd take both dogs if she bolted?
I mean, there's no way she'd go without Debbie. If she was leaving me, there's no way she would leave Debbie behind, yeah.
It would be very cruel if she both took Debbie and
Why are we talking about my wife leaving me?
Because obviously she's late. Because she's giving you 1,000 hints that that's what she's going to do.
We also... At the beginning of this episode, we talk a little bit about, how old we are compared to the youth of today, and how, there's some chatter about slang. And I will say, last week, Mackenzie went to Disneyland with a couple of her buddies as a belated birthday sort of day out. And I saw that this musician, Jamie XX, was playing, who's like a DJ, electronica, down at the Shrine Auditorium. I went on StubHub. She was out. She was like, I'll be home by 8. I was like, no way you're going to be home by 8. Yeah. And I bought one ticket to this show, and I just felt like I took the metro downtown, and I felt so old walking around the venue, and I got there so far before he started, and I'm doing dry January, so I was just sort of like just drinking a ginger ale, like, what am I doing? And then I sort of waited there's nowhere to sit at that place except in the lobby. And so I was like sitting in the lobby just watching people. It was fun people watching. And eventually I was like, I should go in.
You know what young people like? When an old dude with a ginger ale just is peeping them.
Mostly going. I was looking at people's shoes. I was trying to see like, what kind of shoes are people wearing this thing? Yeah,
that's a weird kink. Keep going. Stop looking at my girlfriend. I'm looking at her shoes.
They're really nice. And then I was like, well, I should go in and sort of find a place to be and just post up. And I'm tall, so I'm one person. I don't want to make, I'm not going to get in front of a group of shorties and just have that be my spot. So I find a good spot. And you have to wait so long for Jamie XX to come out. And it's like real sort of just deep DJ vibes, like real kind of. And eventually the show starts, and there's this group of people next to me and this girl sort of clocks that I'm standing there and I'm in a hoodie, and at some point she's like, and it's full on party at this point. And she says, got to be hot in that hoodie. And I was like, yeah, but if I take it off, I just feel like there's not enough room for me. She's like, come on, take it off. And I was like, I don't know. And then a couple minutes later, she's 100% right. So I take it off, and she's with this guy too, and he's like, gives me a nod, and she's like, yeah, I knew you'd get there. And then she's like, tie it around your waist, and because I'm just holding it in front of me. And I was like, then it's just like, it makes me wider all around. She's like, tie it around your waist. And eventually I do, and she's 100% right. And there was like, she was part of this big group, and her and this dude. And eventually she's like, are you alone? And I was like, yeah. And they thought I was you for a minute.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Which
I'll
I think
it. Yeah. I will take it.
Yeah. And they really she's like, you're with us now. And so I really want to thank Emma and Reggie and the rest of their band of merry pranksters. Because it was, I wasn't like dancing with them. I was next to them. I was not in there.
Right.
But I was like, if anything went wrong, if somebody wanted to get in a fight with me, I feel like Reggie would have had my back and Emma would have had my back.
Seems like good people.
Yeah.
I do think they maybe thought you were me and also maybe thought you were an alien who had just come to Earth and had these dead giveaways, like you didn't take a sweatshirt off and you didn't know you were supposed to tie it around your waist. Like, I love all the advice they gave you is like, I mean, it's not like, yeah, they were club kids, so they knew, like, when it gets hot, you take your sweatshirt off. And also, you can tie it around your waist. But how young, I mean, again, I think the problem here that I often make is forgetting how old we are. But, like, how old, you know, because Jamie XX is not, like, the newest thing. Like, I'm aware of him.
Yeah.
So
correct.
How old was the crowd? Was it late 20s? Was it 30s?
I would say it was probably late 20s. And I'm so bad with how old younger people are that I don't like Emma and Reggie in their group. I would like to say like they were USC students because it's right where USC is. But I don't know, they could have been like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alexi's always points out, first of all, Alexi, and I know we've talked about this, thinks it's so lame how into college I am. Like how proud I am that I went to Northwestern. And like to the point that yesterday I walked out and there was a girl in the audience when I come out and say hi to the audience, everybody was clapping, and I saw a girl wearing a Northwestern sweatshirt and I did the Go Cats claw to her.
Oh, yeah.
So that,
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, and by the way, if you're judging me, judge away, you're 100% right. I'm not in the right here, but it is a true, authentic thing about me. But like I was at the corner and somebody was wearing a Northwestern sweatshirt, and I was like, hey, I went to Northwestern. And they were like, yeah, I know. I go, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, when did you graduate? And I'm still saying it like we overlapped. Uh-huh. And I feel like this person was like, yesterday. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was... And Alexi's like, I think at this point, you know, you could assume you didn't go to school with the kids you're running into on the street.
Yeah.
But again, very fun. I'm glad you're getting out. Going to the, we had Alan Cumming on the show, and he was talking about, great dude.
Yeah.
Just had his 60th birthday, and I saw him on Monday, and he's like, I had the best weekend. Went dancing. I'm like, I'm so impressed you can still go dancing. And he's like, no, I went to a place that was started at 5 p.m., ends at 11 p.m. Ooh. And so it's just, and it's like a Saturday night, but it's people realizing, like, why are we ruining our whole weekend? We just want to dance for, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Why, we have our energy.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
There's a comedy theater in LA called the Elysian, and I feel like once a month they have a dance party that's like from 6 to 9, and it's, it appeals to me.
That's really good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy Zosia Mamet. And this one probably, you will never go back and listen to this one. You know why?
What's that?
Because it's going to remind you of the time that Mackenzie left you. And you'll be like, oh my God, he called it.
Honey, don't leave me.
All right. Enjoy.
Family chips with the Meyers brothers. Family chips with the Meyers brothers. Here we go.
I'm waving, but they can't see me.
Oh,
I'm
now
I'm literally
wave.
doing this. I'm like, they can't see me. Just waving at nothing.
We're just icing you. We do not care for waving, and that is how we want to
Sorry,
do it.
there will be no waving here. We don't wave.
Yeah. Hello.
Waving's so 2024.
It is. It's over.
It's really over.
nods, small nods.
Small
in
nods?
25. Yeah, it's just
Okay.
little like
are we gonna bring back the like?
yeah, we
it's
are.
more the chin. It's the
Yeah,
chin
the
waggle.
chin. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's the equivalent of a fist bump, but with your chin. But you don't
Yeah.
actually have to touch.
And no
but it is-
contact, yeah.
It's the same
It's so
attitude.
vintage.
I feel like.
That's so vintage. It's like that and a cigarette. The dude who does that is smoking an actual cigarette.
Yeah.
Is that slang that I don't know that's so vintage? Because I also feel like that should be a new thing.
I feel like I just mean like I don't know if it's slang or not. I
I
mean
love
like
it though. That's
like
so
it's
vintage.
I think
because
you're just
it's like-
sounding extra old by
So
even
vintage.
asking that question.
Yeah.
Or maybe I sound extra old. I feel like the slang the kids use nowadays is good for like a week. And then
Yeah.
it has expired. So if you
Yeah.
say it beyond the week mark, they're like, that's
I mean,
that's not
our
a
mom is still dropping not.
yeah,
thing.
man.
No.
Yeah, because she was a school
Wow.
teacher, and she picked up all the slang from her students. She's been retired now for I don't know 12 years or so, but
Not.
she will
says
still
not.
drop not.
She will
on the regular.
also say your dad was dissing me. She uses diss a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And by the way, he is there. There's no other word for what he's doing.
He's
And there-
dissing her.
He is dissing
Yeah.
her.
I mean,
Yeah.
throwing shade.
Throwing so much shade.
It's
Yeah.
interesting for you to acknowledge that like young people have a different slang because I realized when I watched Girls, I was way older than that world. But that show was so well done that I did feel for a moment that I at least understood that culture. But now that is so vintage.
That is so, it's already vintage.
It's so
Yeah.
vintage.
Do we also feel like vintage is happening faster?
Yeah.
I mean, in the same way as the slang, like coming and going. I feel like the things that are, I don't know. I feel like things are aging quicker. Or maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'm just old.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Maybe I'm just old, honestly.
Yesterday was my wife's birthday, and she wore this pair of jeans that she's had since college. And she was like, I knew these were going to come back in style. They were like a little bit sort of wide-legged at the bottom. And I
Yeah.
have all these pants from when I lived in Amsterdam, which are very tight around the top and then just enormous at the bottom. Like they were like raver pants. And I have so many pairs of them in our closet. And she's like, why don't you just give those away? And I was like, nobody wants them.
No, they're
like
bad.
they are either going in the trash or I can hold on to them. And I will occasionally break a pair of them out for a particular party or thing or like concert. And
Wow.
inevitably I get all these compliments and she will never compliment me on them.
They're awful.
Doesn't like them.
pants.
She disses
But she
you about
wears
them?
like,
She
yeah, but
full
hers were
diss.
like jeans. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
It sounds like hers were maybe ever at one time in style before. Your pants, I would
Whereas
argue.
mine
Oh.
never have been.
So we both, I know this podcast isn't Josh and I telling you about us, but we both lived in Amsterdam, and I managed to live in Amsterdam and never change like with the style of pant I wore. Whereas
Okay.
Josh, and then I left and wanted to come back and visit Josh, and it was insane the change he went through.
Wait, also, I have so many follow-up questions.
Go for it.
How did this come about? How long were you there? What was happening in Amsterdam?
Some American comedians started like a comedy theater over there, like based on the Chicago improv model. And a bunch of American improvisers went over there for a little bit. And I was there for a couple years. Josh was there for 3.5. Is that right? Bro?
3.5, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I think we just had different kinds of fun, Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where all my style came from. I did a fashion show for a place called the Club Warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
At
Is there
a
photographic
club.
evidence of this?
There is
Yeah.
photographic evidence.
At a
He looks like a
club,
young
and the
Bowie.
fashion show was at like 2 a.m. It was
Obviously.
like part of a like DJ night.
For sure.
Yeah. And I had hair, I had a ponytail, and for the fashion show, I cut my hair to be short. And I had this like hood on. It was like I had like a boxer's sort of like warm-up thing, although it was a half jacket, so you could see my midriff. And I came out and walked the stage and then took the hood off my head. And my friends who were on various substances were like just gobsmacked. It was a real moment.
I remember this moment because in the stairwell of the suburban home we grew up in is just, the very classic photos of my parents' 2 children. And there is still a photo of Josh at the fashion show, prominently displayed in my parents' home.
With like hood down or hood up?
I think hood off at that
yeah,
point.
hood off.
Yeah.
Okay.
But taken from a low angle.
Sure.
Yeah. Inappropriate. It's inappropriate for a suburban.
I'm not showing anything other than my midriff.
I was really not expecting this. Like this zagged in a way that I was not anticipating.
I know. I'm sorry.
Really,
Well, this
I'm
is-
really enjoying it.
We
I'm
like to get
really-
you off balance, and then
I'm
we're really
really,
going to clean your clock.
Also, you guys this could be a full lie, and I just don't even care.
Great.
Oh, no,
yeah.
no. We're not liars. We weren't allowed to lie in our
It
house.
would be funny if every episode we just told a different lie to a guest.
about your like
About our yeah.
Yeah. You're like, how old were you guys when you were there? Is this like early 20s?
Right
Yeah.
after college.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Right after college.
Yeah. What's
like
next
me.
week, Seth? What's the line next week?
That we grew up on a commune, maybe in
Okay.
Alaska.
Yeah, sure.
And we had an inkling that our dad was on the lam, but we never quite.
Also, we might have different fathers.
Yeah, we might have. That's
We don't
next
know.
week. But that's next week. I don't want to spoil
Yeah.
it.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
Yeah.
I just want to say, and we are going to get to you and your family trips, but it's been a long time since I've seen a trailer that made a show look as enjoyable as your show Laid looks.
Oh my God.
It seems like the premise is deeply funny.
It's very crazy. It's
Yes.
I feel like sometimes in our industry people are like, what's the hook? And I'm like, what does that word mean? And I read the premise of this show and I was like, that's an actual hook. That's what a hook is. That's
Yeah.
a hook.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Which is basically your friend realizes that everyone she's ever had sex with is dying.
Yeah.
But but not from like a
a
disease.
No,
just
no.
in the order she slept with them.
Or
Yeah.
she slept with them in like, honestly, like pretty gruesome ways sometimes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's basically then it's you and her having to go and warn everybody that they're next. It's like
Yeah.
Final Destination, but also a romantic comedy, and it just looks really fun.
Final Destination, but a romantic comedy. Yeah.
That's a hook.
That's the new log line of our show.
There's so
Well,
many hooks.
There's so many
Just
hooks.
keep the one you got.
There are hooks everywhere.
This thing is full of hooks.
Yeah. Also, my wife's an equestrian, and she was like, "Oh, horse girl, about
Oh my
you." And then I
God.
think you're wearing a horse sweater.
I am. You guys, I'm going
Yeah.
to the barn right after this.
Oh my
butt-
God, that is the horsiest sweater.
Like, could I be any nerdier right now? I don't
Just
think so.
for those who are not without the visual, there's two
Yeah.
horse heads.
No, there are
basically
so many
framing
more than two.
framing a horseshoe. There's
it
horses
goes-
all over it.
It goes
Yeah.
all the way around.
It's fantastic.
There are
Yeah.
horses everywhere.
Yeah.
When you have such a horse forward sweater, is it because it makes you so happy, or you just want to like let the world know, hey, if you want to talk horses, I'm here for you?
You know, Josh, and I don't know how into this you get with your wife, but I feel like being a horse girl is it's like an illness or like or an addiction. It's really an all-encompassing thing. So I think sort of like an animal or an insect that's like drawn to shiny things. It's like anything with horses on it, horse adjacent, with the smell of. It's like a magnet. Like we just can't help but be pulled towards it.
When did you get the horse bug? How old?
Oh my God, I was so young. I actually was just looking the other day through old photos, searching for a specific one, and I found this photo of me. I'm probably like, I want to say I'm like 2.5, 3.
Oh, geez.
And I'm standing, staring at a horse in a pasture, and I am mesmerized. I am like, I'm gone. I was
Yeah.
like, well, there it was.
Yeah.
I didn't stand a chance.
Yeah. I feel like Mackenzie started at like 3.
Yeah.
And her parents just put this photo album together for her birthday. And the cover is just like her way too small, I feel like, to be on a horse, but laying on a horse's back, just like, chin resting on it.
I
And
have-
just looks.
Do you think your parents clocked what a commitment this was going to be for them? Because obviously now you are independent of them and you're dealing with your own the outlay of money that requires to be a horse girl, but like, do you think parents know exactly what they're getting into when a 3-year-old makes eye contact with a horse?
How fucked they are?
Yeah.
Do they know? I think it depends. I mean, I think if you're like horse savvy, obviously, yes. I think for the majority of those poor souls, they have no concept.
Was there any horse savviness with your family?
There was a little bit. So my great-grandmother on my mother's side was a horse trainer.
Okay.
And so she knew a lot. And then my grandmother was a rider, but it kind of skipped a generation with my mom. And she tried to get my older sister into it. And she my older sister could give two shits about horses. So I sort of, I was like the one that tagged along. But I was the one that caught the bug. They kind of knew, but I don't think they had a full concept. And then my poor husband met me when I was on a horse girl hiatus.
Oh no!
Because I had moved to New York for girls and I had brought my horse back east, but she was in Vermont at the barn that I learned to ride at. And I wasn't riding at the time. And then a couple years in,
You were
it re-entered.
Yeah.
I may or may not have bought a horse without telling him.
Mm-hmm.
Sprung that in. That was a really interesting dinner that night when I came home and was like, so. Funny
Who paid
story.
for dinner that night?
Funny story. He cooked
She
that
came out?
night. Poor
Okay.
guy
I
fucking
see.
cooked that night. I came home. He made me this beautiful dinner. And I was like, I bought a horse today.
Were you married at that point?
Yeah, we were fully married. He couldn't even, I mean, he could have. Obviously, there's just a lot of paperwork to get through if he was like, I'm out.
But then I think then he would own half a horse.
Then I know.
It was
I
it's easier to stay married and not
He
have
was
to worry
like,
about
"God
his
damn
half of
it."
the horse.
Yeah.
You really backed me into a corner.
I own half a horse and I just don't even put it on the balance sheet. It's just no, that's.
Did you be honest?
Okay.
In the years that you didn't have a horse present with you, did you actually pretend like you weren't a horse person, or did you leave hints for your husband that this was forthcoming?
He
Or is it just something if you're not a horse person you don't understand until the horse
I
is
think
around?
it's that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think also in my mind, it wasn't that this wasn't a part of my life. It was logistically speaking, it couldn't be in that moment, but I was like, oh, there will be another horse. There may be even more than one horse. But to him, it just wasn't a he's also very analytical. He's very, he's pretty black and white about things. To him, he's like, but it's such a bad investment.
Right.
I'm like, no, for sure. It's the stupidest from a money standpoint. This is dumb.
Yeah.
But also you can't put a price on joy,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But it is I'm around enough of this to know that everyone's buying horses for, let's say, just to make it a round number, $20,000. And people are always but then I'll put work into it and I'll get a show record on it and then I'll be able to sell it for 60. And it's no, you won't. No, that doesn't happen. And also you'll become attached to it and you're not going to sell it and also however much time you put into it and whatever, then you got paid $40,000 for the 40 years that
it's like me saying my kids are getting good at math. And once they cross a threshold, I can flip them.
some real sweat equity. Some real sweat equity into those children.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by Nissan.
Hey, Sufi.
Yeah, Pashy.
What's that thing I always say about going big and it never going out of style?
Oh, I remember. Going big never goes out of style.
Yeah, that's it. And that's why we at Family Trips love partnering with Nissan, because they know that going big never goes out of style, especially when it comes to the 2025 Nissan lineup.
And the Nissan vehicle we want to give a huge shout out to today, the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X.
Sufi, what's that thing I always say about the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X?
Pashy, you always say that no terrain is too tough for the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. It's the most capable Armada ever built.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like your catchphrase.
Yeah, I'm known for saying that, and how could I not? With a new powerful engine, incredible towing capacity, and adventure-ready technology, this is the first Armada to earn the Pro 4X badge.
It's built for the most rugged of terrain thanks to the fact that it's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, which means it's ready to give you the freedom to explore further and to propel your adventures to new heights.
And my favorite part, the Armada's premium interior seats up to 8 passengers. That means we can bring our 6 best friends with us on our next adventure. Let's name them right now.
And we're out of time. So thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode of Family Trips. Explore further with the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Intelligent four-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Support for Family Trips comes from Airbnb. Man, oh man, Airbnb, they've really taken care of us in this podcast. We've had some of our best trips with mom and dad at Airbnbs recently.
Absolutely. I feel like I've had some of the best trips of my life in Airbnbs.
And, I remember when we got to the last Airbnb that we stayed at with mom and dad, I walked in the door and you had, on a giant dining room table, you had already set up a brand new board game. Now, again, we're a board game family. You've done some research, and it was one of those games with a million pieces, and I feel like there would never be a place in a hotel room to do this sort of thing, but it was just laid out, ready to go. It felt like a home away from home.
Yeah. I mean, if I had done that at a hotel, you probably, I'd have to lay it out on a bed.
Yeah.
And then you'd probably come in and just jump on the bed and mess it all up.
That'd be exactly what I would do.
Because it would be funny. It would be a jerk move, but it would also be funny. I recognize that.
It's nice when you're reuniting, be it with friends that you used to hang out with or your family that you used to hang out with, in warm spaces to go to an Airbnb and have that instant connection that you used to have in places that were not hotels.
Also, sometimes you're like, I don't know, is this place going to be okay? Well, then you should just try a guest favorite, and you know it's going to be okay because, people aren't going to find a place that they were not impressed with and say, that's my favorite. So get yourself a goodie.
Book your next awesome trip today at airbnb.com. Support comes from Aura Frames. Hey, Bashi.
Yes, Sufi.
We got our Aura Frame officially set up in the boys' room.
And huge
hit.
I bet.
Now, as we've established, Axel loves looking at pictures. He will wake up early. He'll come into our bedroom and just basically wake us up and say, let me look at pictures on your phone. We have done with that issue what we have a hard time doing with Axel. We put it to bed.
Yeah.
Because now we have an Aura Frame in his room. We set it to turn on at 5:30 because that's about when he gets up.
Yeah.
And now he will just sit there, do his Legos, look at pictures of him and his siblings. The settings are amazing.
Yeah.
Got it flipping basically every 15 seconds because he does not want to look at something for a long time.
Right.
And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's, so many of us now take so many pictures on our phones, and you don't print those pictures out, and you don't frame those pictures. But what an Aura Frame lets you do is it lets you take the best of those pictures and add them to a digital frame so that, yes, those pictures are framed.
Yeah. Also, I had this, how are we going to choose? It doesn't really matter because it comes with unlimited storage. All you need is the free Aura app and a Wi-Fi connection, and you can upload as many photos and videos as you want year-round. Right now, you can save on the perfect gift that keeps on giving by visiting auraframes.com. For a limited time, listeners can get $20 off their best-selling Carver Mat frame with code TRIPS. That's AURA frames.com, promo code TRIPS.
And don't forget to mention that we sent you to show your support for the show. Terms and conditions apply.
Here we go.
All right, so you mentioned Vermont.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I did not realize you started as a New Englander in your early years. Okay. Whereabouts?
Born in Vermont, Randolph, Vermont, which is where our house was in Cabot, where the cheese comes from.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The creamery was actually down the road from where we lived, and then I was out of there pretty fast. My dad kept the house. My parents were divorced before I was cognizant of the world.
Okay.
But my dad kept the house. I still spent some time there, but we all moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts for pretty soon after I was born. And I lived there till I was 5.
And then LA.
Then LA, but split my time between LA and this tiny town in Massachusetts on Cape Ann called Annisquam.
And who was there?
In Annisquam, my mom and my I would go with my mom and my sister, and my grandmother lived between there and Manhattan.
Gotcha. So you had it seems like you were a real country city situation.
Very transient, very like mishmash, mashup situation.
And your dad at the time, when you were born, your dad was already a successful, well-known playwright, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. So he probably, were your parents going back and forth to Manhattan then?
Yeah, they were in between New York and Vermont. And then I don't know why Massachusetts came into the picture, but they for some reason settled on Cambridge.
And so was Vermont then the place you would vacation from Cambridge?
With my dad was in Vermont. My mom was Massachusetts.
Got it. So your trips were either with one parent or the other?
Oh. Oh, yes. Unless murder was on the table, it was one or the other. Yeah.
And that is a thing even a very young kid can clock, right? Like, thank God we're not doing this as a group.
Oh, yeah. No. I don't like have any memories of them even like standing. Literally, when they came to my wedding, I was like, I don't think they've been in the same room since my birth.
Were they seated close together?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know, did they have any interaction? Did they both walk you down the aisle?
Oh, no. My dad walked me down the aisle. My dad walked me down the aisle, sat in the front row, and then promptly fell asleep.
Well, was the ceremony pretty boring?
Honestly, no. Jerry Zucker married us, and it was fucking lit. I was like, of course, Jerry. He had a sparkly pink binder that he like whipped out of he like had it hiding behind him and then whipped it out, and like that was what he had his speech in.
God.
And I was
wonderful.
like, Jerry.
How did Jerry Zucker end up marrying you? That's such a nice pull.
Katie Zucker, his daughter, was my like childhood best friend.
Fantastic.
And they I basically like lived with them all through my high school years. Essentially, we were so close. We spent like every single day together.
Did you was it a tough ask when you asked him if he would marry you, or did he just jump?
No, actually, when I told Katie that Evan and I had gotten engaged, she wrote me back and was like, I just told my dad. He told me not to say this, but he really wants to marry you.
I was kind of hoping that was it. Like that's the nicer outcome because that's so loving to offer.
It was very, very sweet. It was, oh my God, it was so cute. He called both of us, like he called us together. He called us separately. Like we both cried talking to him. It was,
best.
It was very,
great. It's so wonderful. Did you, how much older is your sister?
6 years older than I am.
So she must have a far more vivid memory of your parents together.
Oh, yeah.
And was she sort of like, was her messaging to you like you're not missing much?
She was, I didn't get a lot of intel from her in general because her basic vibe towards me was like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. When you're on hold somewhere and you've been on hold for a really long time and the hold music has like started to sort of become one with your brain and yet still make you feel like anxious and angry. Like that was basically what I got from her. I was the hold music in her life.
Yeah.
So she was and she was like 6 years is sort of like the perfectly wrong distance because it wasn't far enough apart that I was like cute to her, but it wasn't close enough together that we had anything in common. And she was gone. Like by the time I was 12, like she was out of the house.
Yeah, it's not old enough to be nurturing either.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
I feel like a 9-year-old could really sort of step in and almost be,
for sure. Yeah.
A secondary parental figure.
Yeah. Like I wasn't like a doll to her. It wasn't like something cute she could play with. So it was like total, she just basically wanted to fully pretend I didn't exist, or she used to the only time she would really engage with me was when she would sit on me, like put her knees on my shoulders and then fully sit on me and tickle me until I wet myself.
Yeah. Seth used to do that. I used to scream that I was going to pee when he would be holding me down and tickling me.
Empty
It's a good
threats.
move from an older sibling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, kind of mean. But
then it seems like your
Successful.
grandmother on your mom's side was a big part of your life.
Yeah, she was a pretty big part of my life.
And did you ever go on trips with your mom and your sibling, your sister? Did the three of you ever go places?
Yeah, we would go on trips. We would go on trips sometimes, like spring break vibes. We did spend a lot of time, like most of our time off was spent in this tiny town in Massachusetts. But we went. She took us to Europe when I was younger.
How old were you?
7.
Do you feel like that is too young to appreciate Europe? Or do you have a great time?
No, I actually had a great time.
where'd you go?
We went to France and Italy and London.
It's great.
Cool.
Yeah, we were Paris, Venice, Florence. I feel like we went somewhere else in Italy that I can't remember, and then we went to London. Although I have like a pretty traumatic. So we did the Tower of London tour, and we went during the summer. It was probably like July or August. I remember it being so hot, like just that, that time of summer in Europe where it's like you feel like you can't breathe. You feel like you're actually being baked inside of an oven. It was like that, and I was really bored on this Tower of London tour, and we were like the Beefeaters, like taking you around, showing you all the different areas, giving you stories. And we were outside looking at some like tower, I guess. They were telling some story about it.
Well, the tour definitely got through to you because that's an incredible recall.
Thank you so much. And I was hanging off of this fence, just sort of like, I don't know, spacing out. And I stuck my knees into this fence so that I could hang off of it. And we were probably there for like 10 minutes. And it was so hot that my knees swelled and I couldn't get them out. And they had to call the fire department.
No!
And this huge crowd formed around me. And the fire department starts talking to my mom and this Beefeater. And they start saying, we're going to have to cut her out. And in my 7-year-old brain, I obviously thought they meant like cut my legs off.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck at this fence, like hysterically screaming, please don't take my legs. And they're like trying to figure out the best way to mitigate. They're like, well, obviously, like we don't want to have to rebuild the fence. So like, how do we do this? And then this like 1,000-year-old janitor walks by and looks at the whole scene and rolls his eyes and pulls out like a big thing of dish soap. And he just covers me in dish soap and like pops me out.
Was it, did people cheer when you popped out?
Well, they cheered so loud and I wanted to crawl inside of myself and die.
Yeah.
Was there more of the tour, or was it like, we're calling it? We're going to take the quick exit?
That's a great question. I don't remember, because I don't remember if what I recall from the tour was before or after that. So I have like vivid, because have you guys ever done that tour?
No. I don't know.
It's very upsetting.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, here are all the ways that we used to viciously torture people by like putting them on a thing and like pulling them apart slowly. Like, it's very hardcore. But I don't remember if that was from before or after that.
Do you think that moving forward in time, they added to the tour the fence where the American girl got stuck and old Nigel had to soap her out? This is the famous fence.
This is the fence. Honestly, maybe, but I do feel like they probably would have amended it to make it more like she died here.
She died here, yeah.
She died here.
And
now her ghost lives on.
This is very interesting to me because I know for a fact. So I think my oldest would be devastated if that happened, and the same thing. He would want to crawl in a box, And yet you have, and I sometimes make the mistake of thinking that he therefore would never want to be on stage. But like, obviously you are a performer, and yet you did not like the moment where everybody applauded just because you felt so much shame about your swollen legs.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, but I think the differentiation is like I've had to present awards before,
Yeah.
and I will like almost pass out from fear and nervousness and discomfort.
So it's a lack of control because you didn't
And
have
I-
any control.
And I'll go into like a fugue state. Like I come off stage afterwards and I'm like, what happened? But if I have to go on stage like for a play, there are some nerves, but like nothing that touches that. And I think it's because I'm not myself. So it doesn't feel
Yeah,
I don't know. It feels like there's a barrier.
Yeah, you were very yourself in that moment. Now, I would imagine a sibling, if you're 7, a 13-year-old older sister, I mean, must
Oh my God.
no
You guys,
support.
You guys, this was the same year. I wrote an essay about this for the book that's coming on the phone. This was the same year that she told me she and her best friend were having a sleepover. And I'm like, I should have known because she did this thing she had never done in her life, which was like invite me into her room. So like that should have been the first tell that something
Oh,
bad
you mean
was about
like the act of kindness
Yes.
should have been a
the
red
act
flag.
of like, do you want to come into my room? They invited me into her room and proceeded to tell me that when you turn 13, you're gifted a penis.
Okay.
And I was like, what are you guys talking about? And then they started to just like lay out the whole ceremony. And yeah, so when
Oh, wow.
she fucking with me when she was 13 was like her favorite thing to do. So after that happened, I didn't live that down for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Was it, would you like grow a penis or would you be given a,
No.
like on its own?
Yeah, it was like a special box that it came in.
Gotcha. And hopefully you got wise to the fact this was a joke before your 13th birthday.
Yes, well,
so that it wasn't massively
you would have been
disappointing.
terrified leading up to it.
I would have been very scared. After I asked her and her best friend to show me theirs, because I was like, I don't believe you. And they were like, we can't show you ours. We're already in so much trouble for telling you. She was like, well, why don't you ask Mom? And I was like, obviously. And then I was like, Mom, can you show me your penis? And she was like, what is that? What is going on?
I will at this point say, perfectly played by your sister
Honestly,
and her friend.
Yeah, if it was all just a lead up to get you to ask your mom to show.
Could not have been. I mean, she
penis.
she was a master manipulator. I have to give it to her.
That's real good.
Yeah.
So when you guys would go on vacation to a small town in Massachusetts, how would you spend your time there?
In the summers, there was a yacht club that all the kids went to camp at. The town is like this big. Like literally you have to drive out the way that you came in. It's like, I always say like that side of my family is sort of like waspy. I say like the two things I got from them is I ride horses and I like gin, but other than that, like nothing passed down. So like I would go to this camp where you had to sail and play tennis, and I could not have been worse at both of those things if I tried. Like yeah. So that was like I can't even hit the tennis ball with a racket.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. But I also like got to spend my summers not wearing shoes and like swimming in the ocean all day. And I would ride horses.
And drink a ton of gin.
And drink so much gin.
It is funny, we've given our kids, the boys at least, a shot at tennis. And I think even though they haven't done it long, I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like you could just tell. Because then you also watch other like 8-year-olds and you think, well, they'll never catch up.
It's crazy. There are some kids. Our neighbor's kid is one of those children that is just like gifted when it comes to sports.
Yeah.
His dad is Israeli and he's like, we don't have baseball and like it's not a thing.
Right.
And we found this out because his son was literally, we were walking the dog and Evan used to play baseball growing up. and he was like trying to throw the baseball to him and it was not going well. And Evan was like, do you want me to throw with him? And this kid throws him and literally Evan's arm like ricocheted back. And he was like, what is going on? Where did you learn how to throw like that? And the kid goes, I watched some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And you're like, he was like, yeah, I don't know. I got curious a couple weeks ago. I've been watching videos for a couple weeks. And it was like the third time he'd ever like thrown the ball. And he could just, and then Evan was like, okay, try this. I don't know anything about baseball. This throw, this, whatever you call them. What do you call different pitches?
Pitches. Yeah.
Sure.
And he like knew how to do them. It was crazy. And you're like, well.
I think, with all due respect to YouTube, I think my kids could watch hundreds of hours of pitching tutorials and would not be able to do what this kid's doing.
I mean, I don't know. Some of them just know.
When I was like, I want to say maybe 14, I thought I was getting okay at tennis, and I like entered a tournament that anyone could enter, and I got matched against the number one tennis player in New Hampshire, where we're from.
Okay.
And at 14, kids are good.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I got just, I mean, it was 6-love. And I was like, yeah, this sport's not for me. I mean, maybe had I played against someone else who was not the top tier,
Sure.
I would have been like, oh, I could like work my way up here. But I got blown out so hard that I was like, I'm never playing any competitive tennis in my life.
Too late. It's too late. You lost it. You lost it.
That's it.
Was that the only Europe trip you took, or did you guys go back again?
No,
Do you feel like it was framed as a success in your family history, that trip you took?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was. There was definitely like some drama that went down. There was something that happened in Venice that I am trying to remember. I think we got like locked out of a room. Like I got locked out of a room. Oh, that's what it was. My mom had taken my sister to a museum. And I had been left behind. And somehow I got locked out of our room. And so it was like wandering the hotel in Venice by myself. But it all ended out okay.
That's fun. I mean, if you're not scared, that could be really fun.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's 50-50 if you see a kid in a hallway in Venice that it's a ghost. So I do think that's why they, in general, prefer it doesn't happen.
They prefer, yeah, for sure. That's accurate. I loved it. I mean, clearly I have like very vivid memories of it. Did
you go on like gondola rides?
I think we went on a gondola ride. Florence was my favorite. I went back for a summer when I was 16 and I lived in Florence for a summer. I remember none of the Italian and zero of the art history that I supposedly learned there. But I had a great time.
You spent how long were you there?
I was there for like 3 months.
And by the end of that 3 months, how good was your Italian?
Pretty bad.
Okay.
pretty terrible.
Did you smoke when you were there? I feel like
I definitely tried. I have tried to be a smoker like pretty much my whole life because it's gone way better as I've gotten older, but I used to have such bad social anxiety and all I wanted was to like be able to hide behind a cigarette. And I just couldn't do it because I was the loser that was like like just dying in a corner. So that was a bit of a failed mission, but I pretended for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors.
Support comes from iRestore. Hi, Pashi.
Yes, Sufi.
I don't need to tell you the holidays are over, but you know what? It's never too late to give yourself what you really want. What do you really want, Pashi?
Me?
Yeah.
Just happiness.
Well, some people want happiness via hair regrowth. Not all of us are Pashi walking around with the greatest head of hair God ever gave anyone. This is not just a gadget. The iRestore Elite is a powerful hair regrowth solution designed to fight thinning hair and hair loss with clinically proven results. With 282 lasers and LEDs delivering light therapy to your scalp, it's like a spa day for your follicles.
Let's face it, it's cold outside, so staying in is the vibe. Whether you're binge watching your favorite show or settling into a cozy blanket fort, the iRestore Elite fits seamlessly into your self-care routine. It's lightweight, hands-free, and completely painless, so you can kick back, relax, and let it do all the work.
This is very exciting. For a limited time, our listeners can save $625 off the iRestore Elite at irestorelaser.com/trips. Head to irestorelaser.com/trips to get the hair regrowth device you've been wishing for and start feeling like yourself again. Hey, Pashi!
Yeah, Sufi.
Support comes from Blueland. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah, they're supporting us. And did you also know that an estimated 5 billion plastic hand soap and cleaning bottles are thrown away each year?
That's crazy.
It's too many.
Yeah.
Also, you know what's inefficient? Most cleaning formulas are 90% water. It's heavy to ship. It leads to excessive carbon emissions. Plus, those products are often filled with nasty ingredients like chlorine and ammonia. It's a lose-lose situation for you and the planet. You know what else is a lose-lose situation for me? And this isn't going to shock you, Pashi, but I'm just going to say it.
What's that?
My daughter, Addie, said to Alexi today, Alexi texted to let me know. She said, Daddy doesn't wash his hands enough.
Oh, well.
3.5.
Yeah. Maybe that'll change things.
So we love Blueland.
Absolutely.
You're a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. We use it all over the house. You get these little tablets that you just like drop in your soap dispenser and then you fill it with water and then it becomes hand soap or it becomes laundry detergent or it becomes pretty much anything. There's body wash. And also you get these little tablets, which are really nice. And then they have these like forever tins, which is where you put your tablets because they come in a little recyclable paper bag. And all my cleaning products at home are nicer than they have ever been before. And it's because of Blueland.
There you go. Also, refills start at just $2.25 because, you know, look, they can be affordable because they're not shipping all that material that takes up all that space. Blueland has a special offer for our listeners right now. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/trips. You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/trips for 15% off. That's blueland.com/trips.
Here we go.
Did you and your mother and sister, would you take any stateside vacations? Or was it just sort of like staycations in Massachusetts and then?
I'm trying to think if we went. My mom worked on location a lot, so we would like go with her.
What did your mom do on location?
My mom was an actor.
Okay, gotcha.
She doesn't do it anymore, but yeah, she was an actor when I was young. So we traveled with her. She filmed in Utah a lot, so we went there for a while. Canada, Mexico. We went to Hawaii a couple of times on spring breaks when I was younger. And without fail, I would get a really terrible ear infection like day 3 and then basically have to just like stay in the hotel room. I was probably, I want to say I was like 6. I got food poisoning and strep throat together.
Oh, wow. That's good.
That was a banger. That was a banger of a vacay.
Was your mom good when you got sick?
Interesting question.
I feel like some parents are really good at it. I feel like our mom was really good at it.
Yeah.
Like define what does that mean to you?
I think it would be like, you know, tucking you in on the couch and maybe running down to Blockbuster to get videos for you,
God,
making you soup. And, yeah.
R.I.P. Blockbuster.
R.I.P. That's so vintage.
It's so vintage. I remember every Friday night going to the Blockbuster in Pacific Palisades, major R.I.P.
Yeah.
And it was like, obviously, the actual trip itself served a purpose of like, let's go get a cute movie to watch during our slumber party, but it was also like the place to be.
Yeah.
Like you were like, oh my God, Morgan, what are you doing here? Also looking for a movie? Hi. And like just perusing the Twizzler aisle, being like,
I was going to say, yeah. What was your
candy
snack?
are you getting?
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. Yeah. Like what were you going to wear to Blockbuster on Friday night? Because obviously you were going to see the cute boy.
I can remember I have a vivid memory of sort of standing about to get back into my car after I'd had like the best conversation I had with a hot girl in our high school in the Blockbuster parking lot. And it was never, it was not, nothing was additive. It was not the beginning of anything. It was fully the end of it. But I just remember thinking, that was really great. Here I am under
but
the
like
neon
that memory
light.
has stayed.
Yeah. And
Where is she now?
I will not say her name. I will not deign to say her name, but Josh
Do you
knows
know?
it.
So
Josh,
curious.
you know
Josh
who
knows
it
it.
is?
I
Oh my
will if he
God.
says it.
Yeah.
If she's as hot as he says she was, then yeah, I'll know who she is. Also, our Blockbuster was right next door to a TCBY.
Oh my God.
It was the 90s in a nutshell, I guess.
What a double down. Ours
Yeah.
was right across the street from a Panda Express. I'm trying to think what was next door to it. Oh my God, I can see it so perfectly. We did not have a TCBY in the Palisades. You had to go to Santa Monica for that.
We, so we grew up in New Hampshire. Our parents still live in the house we grew up in. And the
Wow.
first time I brought my wife Alexi to New Hampshire, I don't blame her. I think she was picturing sort of Robert Frosty, New Hampshire, like tiny little town, covered bridge. And it's beautiful, but it's suburban America. Wouldn't you agree, Josh?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I feel like it was maybe 30,000 people. Maybe it's 40 now, something like that. But
we got there, and my dad said they just opened this cute new frozen yogurt place, and my wife just sort of pictured like this little main street, and it was like a strip mall TCBY. And I remember her saying, "What? Who gets their first TCBY in 2009?" She's like. And I was like, my dad did oversell. He was like, yeah, it's great. They got all these toppings. And I'm like, you're just explaining. You're explaining a frozen yogurt place that's been around for 25 years.
That's so amazing.
She was so bummed.
Oh my God. Where is she from?
She's from New Mexico, between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And she is from exactly what you picture when you picture New Mexico. So
Okay.
there's an incredible authenticity to it. Whereas I feel like our New Hampshire is not quite what you.
our little downtown in Bedford, New Hampshire, like the little, like where the town hall is and the fire department and the
That's
library,
cute.
like that feels like those streets around there feel like what you would imagine. But then you dip onto the 101 highway, which is just one lane each way.
Sure.
But it becomes a little bit, it's not as
There's no like
quintessential.
ye old candy shop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is, did you, what about vacations with your dad?
So I didn't really, when we moved to LA, my dad was still in Massachusetts. He didn't move to LA till I was 14. And we didn't really, I moved in with him when I was 17, but I hadn't really vacationed with him before that. But then the vacations came hot and heavy and deeply, deeply memorable. So my father is like, he is such a creature of habit. Like that's like tip of the iceberg. Basically, like he doesn't really like to leave his living room if he doesn't have to. He just wants everything the way he wants it. And so vacation is sort of just his personal version of hell, because it's obviously like nothing is the way that you want it, because it's different because you're going somewhere else. So my stepmom essentially like forced him to go on vacation. So also like forced fun is never good. And the first year we went to Kauai, we rented a house near Half Moon Bay, and like so lovely. Like she planned it so beautifully. And he was just like, before we even got on the plane, he was miserable. So like just really started out in a not a great frame of mind. But then of course we got there and they were like, we're about to have like a historic hurricane. So didn't go great. We lost power for a couple of days. The bridge that we took to like get to the main town got flooded. So just like not exactly your ideal vacation, but he really doubled down on his misery and just wandered around. My dad I think we've since weaned it out of him. But there was a period of time where he was like really wedded to his swim attire being a red Speedo that was like this big. And he was rocking this hard on that vacation, and he was wandering around in his red Speedo and just like, I don't remember what alcohol. I think it was vodka. I'm pretty sure it was vodka. It was just like red Speedo, handle of vodka, just basically blackout drunk the entire time. And my favorite part, this is like one of my greatest regrets. We had gone into town one day to get breakfast. He did not eat breakfast. He just continued to drink from this handle of vodka. And then we were like gathering our shit to get back in the car to drive back to our rental, and no one could find him. And it was sort of like this little shopping center. There was like the grocery store and a couple of restaurants. And I was like, I'll go find him. And there was a tattoo parlor above the grocery store. And he had wandered into the tattoo parlor, like drunk off of his face, and was like about to get a tattoo of a fucking gecko wrapping all the way around his arm. And he was so excited about it. And I stopped this from happening. And to this day, I'm like, oh my God, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Because if I hadn't, he would have like a huge gecko tattoo.
Was he sitting in the chair in a red Speedo holding a bottle of vodka?
In the chair. The bottle of vodka was next to him. I think he had put on shorts and a shirt, but the red Speedo was definitely.
I will say, if I saw a guy in that era in a red Speedo handle of vodka, I'd be like, this is a sleeper agent who has decided they've had enough of it. This is a Russian sleeper agent who's like, I can't keep it up the charade anymore.
That was his vibe. That was his vibe for sure.
Two things. One, every tattoo parlor should have a breathalyzer.
1,000%.
It should not be allowed to get a wraparound gecko in that state. Two, any appreciation from him over the years that you saved him from the gecko?
No, I think he's bummed I didn't let him get it. I think we're both really sad. Like, I think we both just feel really sad.
Yeah.
Maybe the next landmark birthday he has.
Yeah.
You should take him. You should take him to a parlor. Get it done.
Was that a trip? Who else was on that trip?
So it was me, my dad, my stepmom, my younger half sister, my younger half brother. Actually, my older sister was on that trip. So we were there over like Christmas break. And this was the weirdest trip of my life. All of the hobbits from Lord of the Rings were also there, and we found out, I don't know if they still do this, but at the time, like every year they would go on, one of them would like pick a place and they would all go together and vacation at that place. So we kept running into them, which just sort of, I was like, am I on acid? Like, is this just like a trip gone wrong? Not like a trip. And so we kept running into them. And we were there over New Year's, and my older sister, so I was 17. So how old does that make her?
23.
Thank you. I can't do math. We were there over New Year's. She took me out on New Year's Eve, and proceeded to leave me and then like go off with some local dude. And I was left with this group of people in this house where the basement was like an illegal gambling.
Wow.
Like casino. It was like a homemade casino. And I was just like left with all these local dudes who were like, I was like, whose house is this? And they were like, oh, it's Cynthia's house, but we're watching it because she's in jail right now. And my dad didn't know where we were. Oh my God. And she came back at like 6 the next morning, and I was just like left with these dudes like hanging out while they all played just like homemade fucking blackjack.
God. Were the hobbits we know, or was it like the 40 hobbit extras from the Shire?
It was the four main.
Twas the hobbits, you know.
Okay. I just wondered if it was like a group of like tons of hobbits.
It was the OG hobbits.
Okay.
So the whole reason we went to Kauai is my my dad and my stepmom used to take yoga classes with this woman who like lives between Kauai and Venice, California. And she has an avocado
Not right
farm.
between, because that's an ocean.
Yeah, not in the ocean. She's erected her own island in the middle of the ocean.
No, she must be good at yoga.
She's very good at yoga. So she has an avocado farm there, and she like does yoga classes on her avocado farm, where we kept running into the hobbits and also weirdly Jason Mraz. And I was just like, what is this mashup of people happening on this trip on this island? But
And you tried to call them by their actual human names.
I did.
But they were like, please, no, just refer to us as the Hobbits.
No.
You're like, hi, Elijah. It's like, no, please.
No.
We're collectively the Hobbits.
Like on this specific trip, that is what we would like to be referred to as.
What was your distance with your half-siblings?
So my younger half-sister is 6 years younger. And then my younger half-brother.
Perfect split.
Perfect split. Perfect split.
Did you use the penis story on her when you turned 13?
I didn't.
Yeah, you're a better person.
I'm just not a bad person, you know? I'm also a terrible liar. Terrible.
Yeah.
Like you will not, someone the other day, I also think that's a real misconception about actors is like that we're also good liars. Someone the other day was like, oh, you have to pretend like I didn't tell you that thing, act surprised. And I was like, I can't do that. And they were like, of course you can. I was like, no. So then this person tells me this thing I'm not supposed to know. And I was like, no way. Stop it. That's crazy.
I think it is a misconception. I think a lot of actors are terrible liars.
I'm a horrible liar. Oh, and my husband knows immediately. I try and lie to him. Like, I haven't even finished the sentence. He's like, don't fucking lie about that. Don't lie about that.
I think that's good. I think that's healthy in a relationship.
What's this charge? Oh, I don't know. What is it called again?
Horse?
Yeah.
One horse?
Horse.
Yeah.
Horse.
There's a
Horse
very
day.
large charge on
Someone
the credit
bought
card.
one horse.
That was, I think our credit card has been stolen. Wow.
This was absolutely delightful. I mean, genuinely, I love every time you're on the show, but it has been so wonderful to spend this extended amount of time with you.
Oh my goodness, you guys, what a joy.
Just
Absolutely.
joyful.
I also, my only request is I want to see that photo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it.
try to
We'll get
look
it in the
up.
show notes. We'll get it over to you.
I would like to see that photo.
Josh would
Yeah.
like people to see it. He has, I mean, I think,
Yeah.
yeah. He looks young and hot, and it's a good thing to get out there.
Although the guy that owned the Club Warehouse, Iran, he always was like, why you stick your belly out when you're on a catwalk? So apparently I was always pushing my, like I just,
You're like
I don't know.
leading with your pelvis?
I think I was leading with my pelvis.
Yeah,
in a
sure.
bad way. I think you can lead
Oh.
with your pelvis and also pull your belly in. I never had like a big belly, but it was
Right.
it was clearly something that he was like, stop doing that.
So like that and tennis were just like,
Just two things
Yeah.
that didn't happen for him. And then everything
Yeah,
else
everything
is kind of
else.
crushing.
Everything else is happening.
All
Those two.
right. Josh now is going to ask her a speed round question, Sasha.
oh my God. Okay.
You can only pick one of these. Is your ideal vacation relaxing, adventurous, or educational?
Relaxing.
What is your favorite means of transportation?
Train.
Great.
If you could take a vacation with any family, alive or dead, real or fictional, other than your own family, what family would you like to take a family vacation with?
Oh my God. What a hard question.
Yeah, we actually just talked about how this is a hard question.
That's such a hard question. Now I'm like just flipping through every book I've ever read. I don't know. Can my answer just be not mine?
Yeah. What about the Zuckers? It feels like
Oh, I have taken many vacations with the Zuckers and it's
Mhm.
joyous. That's a great
Okay,
great
great.
call.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a little jealous of it as well. So
I honestly,
it might be my answer based on how nicely you're speaking about that.
if you called up Jerry, he would probably be like, come along.
Yeah.
Janet for sure would say yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think your dad's not going to get a lot of, like, I think anybody who listens to this isn't going to be like, oh, that's who I want to go on a vacation with.
Unless, I don't know, unless their first answer was adventurous, in which case maybe.
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
Does my husband count?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good. You have a very the speed at which you got to that is very sweet.
Would you? You're from Randolph, Vermont, but do you consider it your hometown?
No,
What's your hometown?
probably LA.
LA. Would you recommend LA as a vacation destination?
I don't think I would, but I also feel like I think it's a tricky place to do right as a vacation. And I think I think it's very easy to go very wrong there.
Yeah. I think people think it's smaller than it is.
I think that's
and
correct.
they make plans to do things and then they spend so much time in cars and it's like, no, just like sort of keep it close and then you can enjoy yourself a lot more, I think.
A woman from my barn recently went for the first time with her boyfriend. And I was like, send me your itinerary. And she did. And there were like, every day there was like 5 things in like totally. And I was like, no, we got to rework this whole thing. You're going to have a terrible time. And I think that's sort of like the biggest pitfall.
Yeah, agreed. Seth has our final questions.
Have you been to the Grand Canyon?
I have.
Was it worth it?
Yes.
Did you do horse stuff?
I did the mule ride. I really
Great.
want to do the trek. You can do a trek on mules down into the center of the canyon, which I want to do at some point.
I kind of want that for you. I think it's
Thank you.
designed for you to enjoy.
I think so.
I celebrate that you enjoyed it. I still don't think I would, but I really kind of was hoping you'd gone because I feel like
Have you not been?
We went, Seth.
I went and looked in it with Josh last year.
We had our fantasy football draft on the rim of the Grand Canyon, and Seth was
low key.
Well, my friends did it to burn me because we're like the Hobbits. We pick a different place every year. And because I'd always kind of crapped on the Grand Canyon, that's where they made me do it this year.
And you really didn't think that it was?
It was spectacular. It was spectacular.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like if I wasn't doing a second thing, like if I also didn't get my fantasy football draft done.
We didn't go for the express. Like we didn't go just to the Grand Canyon. We were on a long road trip cross country, and it was one of our stops.
That's great.
So that's probably also. It wasn't like I flew there just for that.
Right.
It was like part of a much longer trip.
But if you could go and do this like trek down and spend a little time and have that be your thing, you wouldn't be like, oh, I needed something else from that vacation. You don't anticipate.
I think I would be happy with just that.
I'll just reiterate that I'm very excited to see Laid. It's on Peacock. It looks super funny. I like seeing you on camera. I like seeing you on Zoom. And I like seeing you in person. This has just been wonderful.
This has been such a joy. Thank you so much. What a good hang.
Yeah.
Great hang.
Thanks. Have a great day. Have fun out at the barn.
You too.
Bye,
hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Family trips with the Meyers brothers. Family trips with the Meyers brothers. Here we go.
This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by Nissan. Hey, Poshy.
Yes, Sufi.
Let's talk about some things that never go out of style.
Ooh, I love this game. Like
Pasta.
bomber jackets,
High top shoes. Jean jackets.
baseball hats.
You know what else never goes out of style?
What's that?
Going big. That's why we at Family Trips love partnering with Nissan because they know that going big never goes out of style, especially when it comes to the 2025 Nissan lineup. And the Nissan vehicle we want to give a huge shout out to today, the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X.
No terrain is too tough for the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. It's the most capable Armada ever built. With a new powerful engine, incredible towing capacity, and adventure-ready technology, this is the first Armada to earn the Pro 4X badge.
It's built for the most rugged of terrain thanks to the fact that it's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, which means it's ready to give you the freedom to explore further and to propel your adventures to new heights. So thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode of Family Trips. Explore further with the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Intelligent four-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.